Hello, welcome everybody. This is Francisco Perez. Welcome here for another. Welcome to my channel for another educational lesson. So today we're going to be getting into Japan, and we'll be going over this book, Japan from Prehistory to Modern Times by John Whitney Hall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna narrate, and first I'm gonna go into a little something. So what we're realizing, see, when we see the ancient sculptures in specific areas in Asia, like in Japan, we see that there's a, an Afro-Asiatic culture, all right? Much like us. That's our ancestors. May not be your specific ancestors, but they're part of your family who had spread throughout the world, and that's a specific family group from your family, all right? So what we're learning is that a lot of these cultures we in the areas today, like France, Japan, China, Europe, America, a lot of these cultures who even practice the cultural rights and the significance that was important to the prehistoric people of those lands. So what I'm saying by that is they coveted their culture, and they took a lot of the words, the garments, many things was taken. Even the names was even taken from a lot of these people. And so that's what happened in Japan. So we hear these people called the Jaman people. So the Jaman people is you and I, me and you. We the Jaman people. And this right now is gonna link it. It's gonna link it together. And just add another piece of the puzzle. Alright? Just add another piece of the puzzle. I don't know how long this recording is gonna go, but then I'll do another one after. Alright? Alright, so let's get into it. So it's right in the beginning of the book. Page 13, all right? So I'm gonna read a few pages. Now I'm gonna just go to some pictures and a couple articles, okay? And while I'm reading, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents, all right? All right, thanks. Welcome everybody. Well, to everybody out there trying to teach and give knowledge, and just we're all just trying our best, you know. Love all you guys. All right, let's get at it. So all this is closed. I live right next to the freeway. All right. Only place you can. All right, let's just do it. Origins of the Japanese people and their culture. One would wish to be able to begin the story of the Japanese history with an exact statement of origins. The historian's quest for absolute starting points and the temptation to look for explanations of the very recent in terms of the very remote may be, as Mark Bloch has remarked, an idol of origins. Now we all know that the Japanese people are Canaanites, and they come from this massive group, family group called that's related and within the Canaanite family, and they disperse throughout the world in a grand army, and they conquer people, different populations, and they assumed the role as these people. So the Japanese people is a Canaanite people, and they stem from the tribe of Sin, which is the biblical name, which they had morphed into Sinite, Sini, Shina, then finally to Japanese or Ibisu Imiru, uh, Japanese, and but they still retain the name in their religion, which is called Shinto. Shinto, okay? And the Romans were calling them the tribe of the Sinites to just recently. So, all right. Yet the search for certainty about the genesis of the Japanese people, Genesis, is not an idle one, particularly since the geographical isolation of the Japanese has helped preserve various early elements in their culture far into their later history. An exact knowledge of the original racial composition of the Japanese and the sources from which the early culture was compounded would help immensely to get us started with the telling of their history. But such knowledge is suppressed. I mean, it doesn't say that. It says such knowledge is as yet denied us. Isn't that what they're saying though? Look, I didn't even realize that's what they said. To suppress, denied us. What does denied us mean? Some people may think denied us means just we just didn't find it. No, denied us is really meaning that we're just not able to show you guys. Well, I'm gonna tell you as much as I can, and maybe you'll get it. Let's see. Let's continue. The Japanese islands, like the British Isles, obviously became the home of a mixture of people who arrived at various times from various places on the continent, and perhaps even from the islands to the south. So, when they say from the islands to the south, in modern times, they're referencing to the Negro Afro-Asiatic people of Polynesia. Because truly, what Polynesia means is many nations. The four-bearded lions and other tribal people, like I believe Arabian people. They came in the 9th century. They mixed in with the Filipinos. Did they start the Micronesian people? Or was the Micronesian people like an Arabian people that mixed with another group? Or was there a group of Arabians or Arab Canaanite people that came long time ago? Because they don't fit. Yet they have some that look like Afro-Asiatic people. But does that mean that's because they are Afro-Asiatic? Or does that mean they have mixed? Or has there been relations? And so there's phenotypes. That's the thing we gotta understand. And we have to trace it down, but when they mean South Pacific, they mean Papua New Guinea. They mean the Melanesians, like the people like the Fijians. All these Solomon Islands. All these people that look like the ancient Hawaiians, like all these South Polynesian people, like the African Americans, like the Afro Mexicans, like the Afro Puerto Ricans, like the Afro Cubans. Alright? By historic times, this mixture had produced a relatively homogeneous people who stood out distinctly from their continental neighbors, such as the Chinese, the Koreans, or the Mongols. So they're saying that now, see, you understand that? So they're saying the Chinese and the Koreans are Mongols, and they're all considered together, all the Mongols. Okay? In terms of languages, physical type, religion, and political and social structure. So everything about these people that call themselves different names, all of them get different names. Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Pakistan, all these different names. Huh? What does that sound like? Does that sound like the European who's a Canadian, who's a Tahitian, who's a Louisianian American, who's a Frenchman? When he's neither any of them, he's neither any of them. He's came here, conquered those people, and took the region and assumed the name, or just created the name out of thin air. And a lot of these names can come from the original name, and you'll see an evolutional change that can be tracked. Alright? So these early distinguishing traits were to continue to identify the Japanese, but their origins are not precisely known, nor is it clear how long the process of amalgamation required. So he's saying that that's not how the bones, when we study the cranial, like you study my cranial, gonna match a lot of these cranials. It'll be the same cranials. My eyes, everything, my nose, my high cheekbones, all of this stuff you can study. My shovel teeth. These things are you can study, and you're gonna realize that these have direct relation to all these bones that they're finding, that they have. You gotta understand that. One second. Alright, my bad. I'm back. Precisely when the early inhabitants may be said to have become Japanese. So they're saying is that the early inhabitants is nothing like the Japanese people of today. If you're new here, this is gonna be crazy. But if you're not, if you've already been on this information, bravo. But this is just one more piece of evidence. That's why you come to this place. At first, you just come in, you want to learn, you want to listen. But really, you want the books, you want the information so that sticks and you can teach people. So come on. Bravo if you know, but if not, here we go. Let's get it. The geological soils of Japan have yielded the skeletons of tusks of Ice Age animals. And where else do we find? We find a lot of Ice Age animals in these ancient Afro-Asiatic cultures and many other cultures. But we all sold this isolationism. Yeah, we all taught that all these animals and all this food went all over the place. We're taught that we had all these sail ships and we knew how to sail them all over the world, in some ways better than they do today. But in isolationism, we were traded all over the world. Everyone traded with each other. But isolationism, there was enslavement and migration from continent to continent, yet isolationism is pushed. Alright, let's get with it. Tusks of Ice Age animals that tells us that during the Pleistocene age, the Japanese islands were joined to the continent by a land bridges. So there was more than one land bridge that connected the mainland to Japan. Okay, similar to the one joined Asia to the New World. So this is, we all learned this in school. Come on, man. Yeah, they keep putting you only Mongoloids. You Negroes who love to go all over the place. And you're always getting marginalized and suppressed and warred against. You're always migrating all over the place run away from the problems, but you never went across no land bridges. If you went across the land bridge, that doesn't mean that there wasn't people, your family, and other people like you already there. Because you gotta remember this, we traveling all over the place. Alright? These connections probably remain until the first primitive man entered the area of Japanese island. Japan scholars have discovered what they believe to be petrified bones of modern humanoids who may have roamed the area as far back as 200,000 years ago. Petrified. You don't know what petrified means? It's when they turn to stone. And only thing can do this is a large amount of water, the pressure from it, mass heat. There's only three different things that can happen in order to create this. But the identification is still tenuous. Meanwhile, archaeologists beginning with the excavation of Iwajuku in Gumu Prefecture in 1949 have found and identified a rapidly growing number of stone tools that remain from a pre-ceramic culture dating back to between 100,000 to 200,000 years ago. And if you don't understand now, these dates that they throw at you are only thrown at you to confuse you, because these dates are nowhere near accurate. All right, the people who created these dating applications will tell you themselves that they cannot reach these dates, or the inaccuracy is extreme when reaching 100,000 years. They tell you they can only really date it to 3,000 to 4,000 years, because that's the oldest thing that they have to compare it to. So when they're telling you all of this dates, don't just listen, don't take it to heart, because they're lying to you. The stone implements are roughly flaked, and among them certain large stone tools appear similar to the chopping implements found throughout China, Southeast Asia, and India. Right? So people who have been in China, Southeast Asia, and India were in Japan, and they have brought a lot of technology and culture. And if you don't know, I probably won't have it in here, they actually brought 500 words that added to the lexicon of the Japanese people. Okay? Yet another pre-ceramic culture of a considerably later time has also been identified. But this culture, distinguished by smaller flake tools and sharp-edged projectile points, microliths, has also failed to leave positive skeletal evidence. It may be supposed, however, by reference to similar continental evidence, that its bearers were of modern physical type. It is with the bearers of various Neolithic cultures that the more probable ancestors of the Japanese of today came into the archipelago by this time, of course. So what they're trying to tell you is that we found a lot of cranial archaeological evidence proving that ancient people of Japan differed from the Japanese people of today. Yet we find artifacts of modern Japanese and cranial figures of modern Japanese people in and around the same time period, which this fits exactly fits in my motto. See, when they say that, they're not lying to you, because the Japanese people had immigrated into Japan, and they were the Ibisu and the Imiru people, among other tribes. And they are part of an ancient tribe that had connections to the tribe of Sin. And they came in during the time of the Jaman people, which we will get to later on in this book called Japan, from prehistory to modern times. What happened was they had lived amongst the Jaman people in relative peace. They had learned the culture of the Jaman people, and at a certain time, maybe they felt threatened. They had gone to war with the Jaman people. They had killed most of them, and the rest have migrated out of Japan. And this is the black Buddha statues you find, and all of these different um, ancient drawings of black samurai. And I'll show you a couple of statues of the Buddha. This is the most ancient of the Buddhas. Here I'll show you, let me just put this way there. So I'm gonna go through a few pictures first before I get back into the book. Okay? So if we look into Japan, this is the black Buddhist deity Fudo Myo. And if you look into the Japanese, they have a book, and in it they have a Japanese proverb. And one of these proverbs goes like this: for a samurai to be brave, he must have a bit of black blood. And as you can see by this 2,000-year-old drawing, that this is the original depiction of the Buddha, and this is the deity Fudo Myo. And we go down the line, and this is the Shakyamuni Buddha triad, dated at 623 AD, of the Mori-Uji Monastery from Nara, Japan. And as you can see by the phenotypes and the color, that these people were of a copper colored people, of the same phenotypes of you and I. So the reason why they do this and they throw the dates and the different names at you is so that you don't know you have a connection. So you are all separated and divided. So if you look here, this is Wisdan King Fudo Myo, Japan, 1000 AD. As you can see by this statue, this has a different look than the modern Japanese you see today. And this is a Jaman mask. So this is a mask from the prehistoric Japanese people who occupied the Japanese era prior to the modern Japanese we see today. As you can see from the mask, the nose, the cheekbones, the eyes, these all have non-mongoloid features on them. And see, now you see this is a whitewashed image. And you see how they say, oh, Jaman face, yet they have a European or an Ainu looking person. This is what they did in the Renaissance period, which is called the rebirth period, which means the whitewashing of history, where they rewrote history to remove the copper-colored indigenous person and to install the Indo-European people groups, which are many different people groups. And I can show you that right here. And you see this is a Jaman statue, and it's similar to the Sumerian and the Hawaiian statues and other Polynesian and American statues. So, where are we? So, if you look at this is Indo-European family groups. So you see how they all look little different. They share phenotypes and language groups, and they actually come from a specific family group who has sprung up many of these different nations with slight differences, but they all share the same language and phenotypes for the most part. So I'll show you different people. This is the Nordic, and this is the Dinarish, and the Mediterranean, and the Alpinish, and the Afghan, and the Bedouin, and the Turk, and the